Hey guys,
Hi.
welcome to the show. So today we are going to talk about fossils, everything to do with fossils, all the things associated with fossils. We have with us, is it Yinan?
Yanon.
Yanan. It is Yanan. He is the author of the 50 State Fossils, a guidebook for aspiring paleontologists. There you go. Available on Amazon. I got a link to it in the description. He's also known as Fossil Locator on Twitter. So do check out his stuff. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about what you do, Yanan, who you are, what you love, what you know, in no particular order.
Let's see. I am, apparently these days, I'm sort of a science communicator and kids book writer. And I've got a background in geosciences, specifically in sedimentology and mass extinctions. And in recent years, I've been working with fossil insects and stuff like that, collaborating online with other researchers, and a variety of random projects like that.
That sounds awesome. Let's see. We're going to talk a lot about fossils today, all the myths and misconceptions, as you have a background huge in geology and that sort of thing. So welcome to the show. I'm glad to have you here.
Sure.
We also have Tony Reed up here. Tony, why don't you tell people who you are, what you do, what you love, what you know?
I have a passion for educating, but I am not a scientist per se. But as many of you know, I have a channel here where I do a lot of research, and I try to cater specifically to people who don't want to do the research, and so people who are already pretty much predetermined to be, in the current show, creationists, and so I lead them to the science, whether they want to know it or not. That's kind of what I do. I have fun with it, but who would have thought that I would have learned a lot in the process?
Well, that's awesome. I mean, that's kind of what a lot of this is about. We always are learning and stuff and growing, and it's really important to kind of stay abreast with new information because there's always new information coming out. So tell us a bit. Let's first kind of get into. I really am interested about your book, the 50 State Fossils, a guidebook for aspiring paleontologists. How did you get all this together? Did you go like state to state? What was that like?
Well, a few years ago, it's like I realized that, well, most of the states have official state fossils, and while there was a book by Steve Russetti back in around the late 90s that talked about state fossils, there really wasn't an up-to-date edition that was geared towards kids and people interested in paleontology who don't want a deep read into it, but want something with pictures and some easy to understand and easy to summarize concepts. So I got the idea, and then I pitched it to a small publishing company, and they liked it. And then I went and wrote it, and researched the state fossils of each state. And for states that do not have state fossils, I suggested what their state fossils should be so that kids can work on creating or getting those fossils designated in the future.
Okay, so a question for you. First, before we go any further, what is your favorite fossil? Because I think that's really important. And why?
Growing up, my favorite fossil was always the trilobite because there are these arthropods that existed for about 300 million years, and they were wiped out, and they're really fun and they're interesting, and you can find them in many places. They're like isopods. But as I got older, these days, my favorite fossil is called a trigonotarbid. It's an arthropod. It's very spider-like from probably about 420 million years ago to about 350 million years ago. And they basically look like really big armored spiders. And they're sort of related, but not closely related. But yeah.
Are they actual arachnids?
I believe they fall within this Chelicerata. So,
Okay. Chelicerates.
yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Oh, goodness. Looks like we got you jumped on the
Uh-oh.
screen. So while we're fixing that, Tony, why don't you tell me about which is your favorite fossil?
I haven't really thought about a favorite fossil. You just show me a fossil, and I'm fascinated. I do think it's interesting, though, that we have state fossils because every state, I mean, most likely is getting newer and new. You're finding more and more fossils in each state, and some of them are pretty exciting. And like Montana, I can't imagine what the state fossil of Montana must be. There's been so many freaking fossils there.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Do you know right off what the fossil of
Yeah,
Montana
the
is?
state fossil of Montana is the Maiasaurus. It's a hadrosaur, a duck-billed dinosaur. And it was designated, I believe, in the 80s or 90s because they had found a location called Egg Mountain, which is this location with tons of dinosaur eggshells. And so they found a whole bunch of these specimens, and including the bones of juvenile dinosaurs. So they realized, based on this, that these dinosaurs actually took care of their kids until they were a little bit grown. So Maiasaura means good mother dinosaur. And so that became the state dinosaur or state fossil.
Wow. I just good mother dinosaur. That almost sounds like some kind of, like an endearing name for a nun at a Catholic school or something. Like a really old. I didn't mean to make that joke, but that's where my brain went. But I've been watching like the new Pope, so my brain is all stuck in the HBO show. So like, how can I relate this to this show that I've been watching recently? So, well, that's awesome. I didn't even know about that particular dinosaur. I have here at my local museum, I have specific, and it looks like a bunch of little baby lizards just ran across it. It's like little baby lizard feet all the way. And I'm just like, I love this so much. I don't know why it is. Just miniaturized little dinosaur babies just running across a slab. And then I really think some of the plant impression type of fossils where you get like, and there's one from the Pennsylvania period that is just huge and it's just a gorgeous piece of artwork. I'm like, I would hang that on my wall in my house. It's just so pretty. Then we have a full mosasaur. So I always go visit the mosasaur. And it's funny, is particularly when you get to like films like Jurassic Park that extremely exaggerates a lot of the traits. Like in the last, not the last, I guess it was the last. Now, one of them, they had a mosasaur that was ridiculously huge. And I'm like, that is not how big they are. So how do films like Jurassic Park and stuff, do they irritate you? I mean, I'm just curious.
No. Well, okay. The first Jurassic Park, I enjoyed that a lot, and I was a kid when I saw that, and that was great. I like Jurassic Park 2. I like Jurassic 3. Was there a fourth one? I forgot if there was a fourth one or not. Anyway, let's see. Jurassic World is entertaining, but yeah, they've kind of exaggerated the sizes of like the mosasaur and stuff like that. Jurassic World 2 is ridiculous. Yeah, so yeah.
I remember seeing Jurassic Park and thinking it was absolutely amazing, but I was really disappointed that it was a work of fiction. I would have preferred at the time. I thought, wouldn't it be great if this was available for educational resources? And of course, now the technology has changed to that. But I can't. As far as I'm concerned, I've not been happy with the Jurassic Park movie since the first one, and I thought the first one was brilliant. Both the story, but also the effects. For once, you got to see dinosaurs, and you thought you could smell them almost. So I thought that was brilliant.
Right? We got a jump screen again, boy. Anywho, it's not one of my shows unless we have technical difficulties sometimes. I feel like it's whether it's me or somebody else. I posted my own script on my show yesterday. Like, hey guys, I'm like, well, here's my script. Y'all just saw that. So, big surprise. Guess what's coming up next? But, and I liked Jurassic Park too. And when I was an educator, one thing that I did is I would have students read the book, and then I would ask them the ethical questions. If we could bring back dinosaurs that huge, would it be ethical? Is it worth it? What are all of the potential issues associated with having dinosaurs walking with humans again? What do you think? I would have them look for studies and everything. So
let's see. Yeah, should we bring back dinosaurs? I would like it. It would be very entertaining. We could probably learn a lot of things. And this falls into the entire topic of de-extinction, where it's like we have a lot of recently extinct species. We have a lot of their DNA. Could we de-extinct them? Probably soon with our technology. Should we de-extinct them? Maybe. So it's an ethical debate that's got a lot of sides, but in my opinion, yes, would I like to see dinosaurs not necessarily roaming around, but would I like to see a dinosaur in real life? Yes.
That would be cool. What I thought, for instance, what about you, Tony? We'll get into this in a second. What about you? What are your ethical concerns with dinosaurs? Do you have any, or are you like, let's bring them all back?
There's an ethical way to do it. I think Jack Horner, it might be Bob Backer. I get the two confused. One of them is trying to bring them back via atavisms in chickens, and that might be interesting. As far as bringing them back through cloning, a lot of us we forget that about as many of our actual cells are bacterial cells as our own cells. And who knows what bacteria lived symbiotically with dinosaurs at the time. So it may not be ethical just on because they just might not be supported by whatever bacteria might still be alive today. I don't think the bacteria that were living with them symbiotically then are still around. I could be wrong. They could be in chickens. They could be in ostriches. But it's a dangerous thing because we're not just our own particular DNA. We've got symbiotic creatures living within us. We can't digest food without particular bacteria. So as far as the ethical nature, I'm actually more concerned about the creature that we'd be bringing back and its health. I don't think we're going to be releasing a Tyrannosaurus Rex into San Diego anytime soon.
Somebody mentioned in the side chat, JG says, the dinosaurs could help reduce the global population. One thing that kind of upset me about Jurassic Park was they put them all on an island. And I'm like, what about all the species that are on that island that are now extinct because of the dinosaurs and the vegetation that's gone? Because they were bringing back ancient, extinct vegetation as well. They're gone. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like, what in the heck is going on? So you're just like, you've eradicated various species of other plants and animals for the sole purpose of having a dinosaur zoo, which in itself is a cool idea. But then you're like, but the biodiversity that you just destroyed.
Yeah.
Oh goodness. So I have so some questions for you. Well, let's address some of the science that we just talked right here. So dinosaurs, all right, they lived during a time where the oxygen levels were different. They had clearly different needs. We have the issue of possibly, maybe they wouldn't survive so well unless there was a particular type of bacteria. Do we have a lot of this information about symbiotic bacteria that coexisted with dinosaurs? I know there are some fossils that show bacteria, but are those hard to find? I'm not certain. I've seen a few.
Let's see. Do we have fossil-like bacteria? I'm not sure. I know I've seen fossil bacteria, but do we know enough about it to be able to get enough information? I mean, by that state, it's every single portion of the bacteria has been replaced by a mineral, so we can't really tell what it was, what it did, what.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we yeah. So bacteria issue is like, yeah.
That would be a thing. So yeah, whether or not we could bring back the dinosaurs, it's just kind of like probably not a good idea until we sort out if there are any, type of symbiotic relationships that exist between the bacteria and the organism. I thought I froze for a second. All right. So, getting on with the fossils, what are some misconceptions that you actively hear? I hear all kinds of stuff being a former educator. I've had all kinds of people tell me that dinosaur bones are made actually from chicken bones, and it's a conspiracy because scientists have made up dinosaurs. They're not real. I've heard all kinds of stuff. Have you heard anything like that? Or
Oh, yeah. We have the common one of like the Earth being 6,000 years old and all that, and that just falls into the entire like creationist like young Earther realm. And of course, no, the Earth is 4.6 something billion years old.
yeah.
So this based on strictly dating from like zircon minerals, zircons, and some other things. So we know the Earth is old. Then there's other misconceptions that like, oh, fossils are fake. No, it's like we can take you out and have you collect fossils yourself. We're not going to go there and like plant fossils everywhere ahead of time. That's ridiculous.
Are you sure though? There's so much time that scientists have to just go and plant fossils just willy-nilly. It's like it's like an Easter egg hunt. The scientists go out in the middle of the night and they dig the holes and put the fossils there and cover it up real fast. And then they bring out the press and go, we're going to dig right here. This is where we'll find the fossil, guys. It's going to be right here. How do you know? It's a mystery. And they just start digging. Here we go. It's this strange type of just wire, they genuinely think that scientists, a lot of these people genuinely think scientists are just out to get them, and they're going out of their way to lie. What do you think, Tony? Have you heard a lot of misconceptions along with this? I imagine you have.
Oh yes, all the time. It is, when I tell creationists that they are conspiracy theorists and they wonder how it's a conspiracy, I have to point out that they believe, by definition, that well over 95% of all scientists in every related field are either lying or inept. And when you ask them what the motivation is, it's always about money. And I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm going to say both the people I'm talking to are not millionaires. Am I correct?
Correct.
Yeah. No judgment. I'm not a millionaire either. But why would somebody go through so much effort to be part of a conspiracy for whatever job you have? It's probably not paying a ridiculous amount of money. And if I was going to promote a mass-produced secret, you'd have to pay me. You'd have to pay me a lot of money, and I'm just not getting that kind of money. And so I don't imagine anybody else is part of a conspiracy either. But that is what creationism is by definition. It is a conspiracy theory.
Yeah. So it's weird because when trying to teach this in the South, as I live in the South, a bunch of farm kids about fossils, and then you encounter a lot of what they've been told is so inaccurate, and you just have to sit there. I would get a lot of pushback, but then when you're having conversations with these individuals, for me, I would have to ask, what's my goal of this conversation? Am I going to try to educate them? Am I doing a debate where we have to have a clear winner? Am I trying to prove that they're wrong? And so you go through these series of different things. So what I would like to know is, when you guys are communicating with people who are resistant to the acceptance of fossils, do you have any particular strategies? What do you think? We'll start over here.
Normally, I haven't actually ran into that many people who are resistant to the existence of fossils. Like, I've only ran into probably two people who believe that like the Earth is two people who believe like fossils were planted, and they're both like really, really old people. So at that stage, if they're in like their 80s and 90s, I think I'm just gonna like leave them with their beliefs. And yeah, as for like younger folks, it's like, yeah, I offered, okay, hey, here are some places where you can go and try to find your own fossils. It's like there are plenty of places, especially in the United States, where you can legally go fossil collecting and you can keep what you find. So it's like, why not go out there, have an adventure, and then like find something, learn about it, and make your own decisions based on what you learn.
That's fair. I like that. What do you think? What do you think, Tony?
Oh, I gotta agree. Very rarely do I get people that think that fossils are just that they're just manufactured. I do, however, once in a while get a creationist who will tell me that the vast majority of fossils are just plaster of Paris. And they'll maybe use one example of maybe a Neanderthal skull they used plaster of Paris to fill in the details. But the thing is, whenever I'm these days when I have debates with creationists, I tend to always insist that the conversation be about how do you apply what your standpoint is. If you are a creationist, how do we use that to make new discoveries? Now, I don't know if I don't know if our guest here has ever discovered a new fossil that nobody's ever seen before, but one of the things I point out is that using the assumption of evolution, whether or not it's correct, or common descent, whether or not it's correct, we can predict exactly where to find specific fossils that have never been discovered before, then go there and find them. And that's one of the things I love about science, is that it's not necessarily about knowing everything. It's about predicting and discovering by testing those predictions. I probably went off the subject, but that's my passion.
No, that's okay. All right. So I've encountered a lot of people that pushed back quite a bit on. I've heard the devil planted the fossils, that's why it's wrong. I've heard fossils are a conspiracy by scientists. I've heard that they're actual chicken bones. I've heard all kinds of different things. And so for me, and these were mostly young people. So, and I was in charge of educating them on what words mean and that sort of thing. So I would have to go the angle of, okay, I'm not going to fight with you. You can believe whatever you want to believe, but I want to make certain you understand what the words are and what they mean and what the evidence is. And then, I kind of go around and come up with your own conclusions. I'm not going to tell you what you're supposed to think. That's completely fine. So it's always strange. And then I would encounter some that would have that were really, really intelligent, but were so certain that, the earth was 6,000 years old, evolution's a lie, blah, 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 fossils aren't real. And then when I would show them the evidence, they were smart enough to be able to process that evidence. And you could see that cognitive dissonance set in. It was just heartbreaking sometimes. You're just like, man, because then they have to kind of sort through that, which there's not a lot there for that. If you don't know Dr. Amanda Glaze, she does a lot of work with education on that, trying to help deal with that cognitive dissonance that people have and acceptance of fossils and dinosaurs and evolution and all of that. She's pretty amazing. So check her out sometime. All right. So let's talk about, so I don't know if you're familiar with this. I know that there was a lot of rumors going around at one point in time that the Triceratops was wrong. Have you heard about that at all? Where they had put together incorrect. What are your thoughts on that?
The Triceratops? No, I think the main issue was back in 2009 or 2010. They published some study that the Triceratops actually belongs in this other genus or something like that, and that it was technically some other dinosaur species, but can still be called Triceratops or something like that. But Yeah, pieced together. No, I think the Triceratops has been pieced together correctly. It's what a lot of my fossil buddies call like one of the cows of the Cretaceous because there's so many. There's places where there's like you can walk through a valley. There's like a dozen Triceratops skeletons like just sitting that's like scattered in pieces across there. Triceratops is like a very common dinosaur.
Well, that's kind of cool. All right. So, what are your thoughts? I know that there's a whole lot of still debate about where Megalodon should fall.
Oh, yeah. In my book, I actually said that like currently where Megalodon belongs is like Carcharodon, Cacaricles, or Otodus, and I mentioned all three of these, and that like currently we're just going with the letter C, Megalodon, until we figure out what it is. So well, okay, now it's C Megalodon or O Megalodon. So yeah, I really have no opinion on this. I personally most often go with well, yeah, actually these days I just go with C Megalodon.
And I'm 8 years old again. By the way, when I was 8 years old, maybe even younger than that, I had a book that mentioned Carcharodon Megalodon because that's what it was called at the time. And I've been fascinated since I was a little kid about that shark. I even did a cartoon when I was a kid called Carcharodon Megalodon and did not know how to pronounce it. So I don't want to tell you how I pronounced it as a kid, but it was way off. And so now I'm like an 8-year-old sitting there listening, talking about Carcharodon or about megalodons. But yeah, there's only so much you can really tell from teeth, and that's pretty much all we've got. So piecing it together, I did an episode about how museum exhibits, they have to fill in blanks that aren't there. I mean, we don't have the information to fill them in. And one of the points I made is that just showing teeth is boring. And so that's why we put these, we reconstruct these sharks with these basically, modern day great white bodies, just gigantic. But it's still a fascinating subject. I will never stop being fascinated by megalodons.
I love megalodons and the fact that when I was little, I watched Jaws. And that terrified me. That was probably not the best thing for me to watch back to back with Poltergeist. Completely different.
If you've read the book actually mentions megalodons just for an instant, like in passing, because when it's describing the instincts that the shark has in Jaws, it mentions megalodon and what its instincts are and how they derive from the megalodons. It's again, I was 8 years old when I read that.
I liked the book. I read the book when I was in high school, and then I haven't read it again. But I was terrified of sharks I had a hard time getting in a swimming pool. I was just like, is completely irrational fear. And there's something very primal and scary about something like Megalodon being so massive and huge and way bigger than like a great white, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is freaky. For the people who don't know, the only thing that remains from Megalodon is the teeth when it comes to fossils, and we haven't seen any other fossils. Do you want to explain a little bit why that is?
With sharks, their teeth are extraordinarily hard and they produce a lot of them. Like I believe a shark can make up to like some species up to 30,000 teeth in a lifetime. So they continuously produce and lose these teeth. So with the megalodon, you have these huge teeth which measure up to 7 inches in length. And so they get fossilized very easily because of their density and the numerous numbers of them. While the rest of the shark is cartilage, which does not fossilize well. Now, I believe we have there have been megalodon vertebrae found, and occasionally some other partial remains, but mostly just like vertebrae, and they're extraordinarily rare. So other parts of the shark do fossilize, but they're rare and they're usually disarticulated, so you can't really put it back together. So all we have is a lot of teeth, but with the teeth, we could base we could actually figure out where each tooth goes, and that's how people reconstruct these gigantic megalodon jaws.
So is there a particular place that you would recommend I go if I want to go fossil hunting and find a megalodon tooth?
Let's see. I've got a whole bunch of places.
Really?
Yeah, I'm trying to think which one's easiest. All right, the easiest is in. Okay, let's go with. All right, the classic place is Calvert Cliffs, which is these cliffs along the Chesapeake Bay. Now, there you could go walk along the waterline. You'll find plenty of little shark teeth. There are a bunch of public beaches. There are some places that will allow you to go collecting for a fee. And it's great if you have a kayak and can get to some of the more remote beaches and you find more, but that's also dangerous. So always check your local weather. Make sure you know your regulations. Be careful when you're out there. Don't just do something. Yeah. But Calvert Cliffs, you also don't dig on the cliffs. That's very dangerous. Legal. So don't dig on the cliffs. Just like you can usually find shark teeth along the waterline. A lot of them wash up after storms. And you go enough times, you will eventually find some megalodon teeth. I've seen people like pull up 6-inch perfect teeth from there after a winter storm. So that happened. Another place which is, I would say, much safer and an interesting place to visit is down in Aurora, North Carolina. There's what's called the Lee Creek Mine. It is probably the largest phosphate mine in the United States. Now, we're talking about this giant mine that's like 5 miles across and like probably a few hundred feet deep. And it digs into these rich phosphate layers from the Miocene, and so they get plenty of shark teeth. Now, to keep people from going to the mine to actually look for teeth, because people will want to try to do that, they bust in truckloads of like loose dirt and gravel from the mine to a local fossil museum called the Aurora Fossil Museum in Aurora, North Carolina. So there you could dig through deposit dirt, and I went there 2 summers ago, and I found a megalodon tooth within like 5 minutes. It was like just a small 1-incher, but it's easy, it's pretty safe, and you have a really cool museum you can visit at the same time. Now, beyond that, there's like a lot of rivers throughout the southeast United States where you can like dive to go look for shark teeth and stuff like that. But that's much more complicated because you need to know scuba. You're basically diving in water where there's 1 foot clarity and there's the occasional alligator. So way more difficult, so I wouldn't recommend it.
I have a question for you. I've not dug up megalodon teeth. How sharp are they once they've been fossilized?
Ooh, they range from like, some have been like worn down by water action, so they're kind of like smooth and not very sharp. And there's others with perfect serrations where like if you run it against the edge of your hand, you will cut yourself.
Wow.
Even after all that time. Goodness.
Oh yeah, they're like perfect serrations.
Man. So I feel like I have to go dig for megalodon teeth now. That needs to be a life goal.
I feel like I'm going to.
I'm gonna have to do that. That would be awesome. All right. So ammonites. I love ammonites. And it follows the Fibonacci sequence. It's just perfect and pretty, and they're nice, and we can kind of see the Nautilus now as a living example of that. Where is the best place to find ammonites? I mean, like the big ones.
Ooh, Texas.
Texas. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a big state.
Yeah. Actually, throughout most of North Texas, there's a lot of ammonites. It's like I've gone with friends and we just like drive around roads and you look along the side of ditches and you'll find ammonites. I've had a friend pull up a 3-foot ammonite that was just like laying in an abandoned lot. Yeah, Texas is like basically the entire Dallas-Fort Worth area. That's all Cretaceous material, and there's lots of ammonites there. So that's the place for easy stuff. The more difficult stuff is like South Dakota. There's like the Fox Hill Formation. There's a whole bunch of formations with prettier ammonites because the Texas ones are really rough. But the prettier, but like they're more difficult to get. You have to whack a whole bunch of rocks open, stuff like that.
Rock whacking. That sounds like a new game. Whack a rock. There's another one. Yeah, I don't know. Somebody asked in the chat, I thought this was funny. Can I turn my megalodon teeth into a set of steak knives? That's from Big Zebra.
You probably don't want to do that. You certainly could. You could actually use a megalodon tooth as a steak knife.
Wow.
I've heard of people I've heard of people doing that as a demonstration of how sharp they are. You can't actually use it to slice meat.
Wow. You just pull that out on like a Valentine's Day dinner. Let me cut your steak for you, honey.
Hey, it's already heart-shaped.
Yeah, it is.
Oh.
It is. I love you with my sharp heart as I cut through your meat. That's strange date that, but might be cool, guys. Make certain you got a science girl or a science dude. Just pull out your megalodon tooth and say, I'm going to cut up that steak for you. With some ancient love.
That's actually pretty cool when you think about it, but yeah. That's why I'm alone.
Oh my goodness. Oh gosh. So yeah, I guess you could. So let me see if there's any questions from the chat. Somebody mentioned my fave, this is Nether. Fave megalodon fossils are the tooth stuck in a vertebrae and teeth found in the stomach of a whale ancestor.
The ones you see stuck in a vertebrae, I've only known of probably 3 or 4 real ones. All the other ones you ever seen, all the ones you see on Instagram, they're fake. What happens is the fossil shark teeth people, they pull up a lot of shark teeth, and occasionally one's missing the tip of the tooth. So they're like, oh, what do I do with this? Oh, I'll stick it in one of these fossil whale verts, and then it looks like it got stuck in the whale vertebrae. And that's how that happens.
How can you tell it's fake? So if you were to go to a dealer and they're like, I have this here. First of all, it's likely fake. That's the first thing in your head. But how can you be certain that it's a fake?
You use a UV light and look for signs of glue near the tip of the tooth.
There you go, guys. Ask them to turn off the lights and pull out the black light. And just look. Scan it over. But if you're a serious collector, that's an acceptable question.
A lot of blues will glow under UV light.
The what?
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay. That's fair. So that's a good thing there. Let's see. I'm trying to catch up on any other questions or any other comments that kind of struck me. Someone mentioned Psycho did that for showers. A lot of people were scared to take showers after that movie. That's true. I did not take showers at motels.
To the day she died, my mom would never take a shower without locking the front door and making sure all the windows were closed. And it was because of Psycho.
Oh my gosh. See, those movies scare me. Jurassic Park doesn't scare me. Jurassic Park is just the repeated, I feel like every single disaster movie and every single movie where everything goes wrong is because nobody listened to the scientists. Like the latest Godzilla film. That's exactly what happened. Nobody listened to the scientists. And, then you got a giant kaiju that seems to just float in water or have forever legs to the bottom.
Which Godzilla movie was that one?
Huh?
Which Godzilla movie was that one?
The most recent one. The most recent one is
Godzilla King of Monsters or Shin Godzilla? Are we talking the American Godzilla movies or the
American Godzilla that came
out? Oh, yeah. You have to, if you get a chance, watch Shin Godzilla. It's the Godzilla movie from Japan from about 3 years ago.
Okay.
I recommend this. It's essentially the government dealing with a Godzilla event. So you have them bring on scientists, consultants to analyze what's going on and all this. It's really entertaining.
I will have to say, entertaining is completely wrong, or entertaining is it's close and they gave a good try.
Correct.
Ah.
So like they bring on biologists to be like, what kind of animal is this? And the biologists are like advising government officials, and they're trying to come up with strategies and stuff like that. And it's like, this is like a government would actually approach a Godzilla type event, rather than like the American movies, which is just dealing with it from a military perspective.
Yeah. Oh gosh. See, I have a really hard time with a lot of science movies, particularly the ones that come out in America, because I just cannot separate. I cannot suspend disbelief. I can do that with Star Wars because maybe physics is different in another universe.
Yeah, but then there's times when you find out that they built robots out of living cells, and you start realizing maybe a lot of these scientists don't watch a lot of bad sci-fi, and they really should.
Oh, they're actually able to knit together cells like actual knitting needles to make tissue and stuff. I'm like, I can just see this little grad student sitting in a lab going, okay, one loop, two, going under. Okay, we're going to make this tissue for this person. There's got to be a more efficient way. Like, I don't know, 3D printing, but to sit there, I'm going to knit these cells together, this teeny tiny little patch we're going to put on this heart over here because it's got a hole in it. You know, it's like, but somebody make a film out of that, probably. The knitting grad student who knits little things of weaves of life, like I need to write a book. A sci-fi film about a knitting grad student who has absolutely nothing else going on to sit there and knit little tissues. And nobody would read it because it'd be boring.
But then what if the tissues come alive and gain sentience?
Then we might have a Terminator situation. If they all came alive after they went into the person's body, can you imagine that? They all just got like self-aware all at the same time. And then you've got walking people with like sentient tissues from the knitting grad student. Okay, now it's getting interesting. Oh my goodness. Yeah, going back to the Jurassic Park thing. I think I would totally be on board with like desktop size T-Rexes. And, like little desktop sized pets. But we kind of already have that with lizards. But T-Rexes, and you can put little hats on them.
Oh, no.
Little bow ties. And then we're walking around. Call them names like Reginald.
You could get a chicken. I mean, it's a dinosaur.
Well, first of all, here in Vegas, they have a problem right now where somebody, and they're trying to find this person, is gluing cowboy hats, little tiny cowboy hats, onto pigeons, and the pigeons are flying around Vegas, and it's cute to look at, but the reality is it's bad for them. But getting back to desktop size, that's exactly what again, I don't know if it's Backer or Horner, but one of them is using atavisms in chickens to develop mini dinosaurs that look just like dinosaurs, and but they'll never look like T-Rexes, obviously, because they just can't get that kind of proportion for that size. I mean, there's the cube square law sort of prevents it, but yeah, they're working on it.
Wow. I want desktop dinosaurs. That's sad, isn't it?
Can you imagine having a dinosaur and naming it Rex?
I would name him like Reginald or Harry or something like that. Maybe give him like a British name, and put a little, I would put the hat on him. I would be that person in the bow tie, and they'd sit there and I'd have tea with them.
Call it Owen.
Have a meeting and like, here's my dinosaur Reginald, at my work, and then sit there and be like, okay, so Reginald's here. Like, you always bring your dinosaur with you because science. We're having a science meeting. I need to remind you how awesome this is. Oh gosh, the Geek Room said I'd name it Billy the Midge.
Billy the
Midge. The Geek Room. By the way, I think I'm on their channel next weekend, opposite somebody, I think it's Vackel, discussing B17 and how that's not a cancer cure.
They haven't had me on in a while. It's been like a year at least.
Ah, okay. Geek Room, Tony wants to be on your show. He just said that. No, he didn't, but I'm making it happen. So, oh my goodness. Okay, so I have to ask. And also, I just want to remind the chat, please do check out, I'll put this in the side chat if you haven't already. It is in the description. Please do check out the 50 States book here. Link in the side chat by Yanan. And he's got this amazing book where he goes through. It's a guidebook to let you know where you can go to find which fossils. So please do check that out. And so I noticed, like on your Amazon description, it talks about the Tully monster. And you're like, Illinois state fossil is the weird looking Tully monster. So how about you tell us a bit about that one? Because that sounds interesting.
All right. The Tully monster. Oh, okay. We have to go back to why Illinois has all of these fossils. All right. So Illinois is big on coal. There's a lot of coal mining that has gone on for a long time. And while they're mining this coal, it's from the Carboniferous. It's from like ancient swamps. And there's all of these hard round nodules that are concretions, which means basically hard rocks that form around something. And these form around different fossils. And so fossil collectors would hit up the concretion piles because they're mining coal and like machines separate out the concretions and like they're cast off. So the fossil hunters will like gather up these concretions, and they're actually kind of difficult to like whack open with a hammer. So what they do is they take these and put them into buckets of water and set them outside during winter, and the icing, freeze, and thawing will crack open the nodules along the fossil.
Because the expansion, right? The expansion and contraction.
Yep.
Cool. Thermodynamics is a thing, kids.
Yeah. And then so during the springtime, you have all of these perfectly split fossils where like they're cracked perfectly along the fossil. So one of the weird things a fossil collector found in the 50s was this thing that looked like a weird eel with a trunk like an elephant. It's a pair of eyes on stalks and a weird looking tail. And he brought it to the Field Museum, and they named it after the finder, Mr. Tully. So they call it Tully's Monster. So that became the name Tully Monster, which also became the official like genus name, Tullimonstrum. So we still don't really know what they are. Like every few years, someone publishes a new study claiming that, oh, this is a vertebrate based on this, but then someone will publish a counter article being like, this is an invertebrate based on this. And so we still don't know what it is, other than it's weird looking. It's about a foot long at most. It has a trunk. It has a clawed hand, it basically has a pair like it has claws at the end of its trunk. And it has eyes, and we know it swims, and we don't really know what it is.
Thank you for the $10 super chat, Learning with Suge. And I have to say, the Tully monster sounds like a Jim Henson Muppet. I'm just going to throw that out there. I think we could probably make a Tully monster Muppet. I think that would be successful.
Oh, a bird.
What? Okay, do we know what the Tully monster ate? I just wonder.
No. Stomach contents for a lot of sites don't really exist. So currently we don't know what it ate.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not at all a pachyderm at all, right?
No pachyderms.
Oh, goodness. Ah, man, we're coming up on almost an hour. I'm going to check the chat of it. This has been pretty interesting. So Suge had said it wouldn't let me write anything in the message for some reason. It might be my dumb phone. Bye, everyone. Bye, Suge. Thank you again for the super chat. All right. I'm trying to check up, see if there's any other questions. All right. It seems like Tony found There's a recent alluvial plain from the Mississippi River, so finding that much older fossil embedded in it would be interesting. I'm not certain. Oh, okay. And somebody mentioned about the sawing of the megalodon too. Sounds like some metal lyrics, like from a metal album. Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. All right. So tell everybody, because I usually wrap it up after an hour for this show. Tell everybody where they can find you and all the different places they can find you.
Let's see. So on social media, you can find me on Twitter at Locator. And you can find my book. Well, if you have a local bookstore, I recommend going to the local bookstore, asking them to order my book if you like a copy, or even going to your local library and asking them to get a copy, because that also helps circulation. Or if you just want a really quick copy, you can go on Amazon and get it there. And I approve of that just because I like seeing my books ranking on Amazon go up. It's kind of fun. And feel free to show me whatever fossils you found, or ask me your fossil questions on Twitter at Fossil Locator.
Awesome. Tony, tell them where they can find you.
Oh, you could probably find me very easily by just typing in Tony Reed creationism or Tony Reed science. You'll find me very quickly. But I have a show called How Creationism Taught Me Real Science, where every single week not every single week now, but every single episode, I take a creationist argument and present it exactly as it's presented somewhere, and then turn it into a video where I'm actually showing the real science that's being misrepresented by the argument. So Tony Reed science, Tony Reed creationism. Either way, you'll find me.
Oh,
awesome.
One more thing.
Sure.
I want to give a quick shout out to my illustrator, Jane Levy, who helped illustrate the book with me. So that's a Thule monster. And
Oh
my gosh.
Yeah. So, yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
Like an elephant, eye stalks, body, tail, and yeah. So Jane helped me with illustrating the book, and I want to give her a shout out.
Is that a mollusk? Is it at least a...
No, it's not a mollusk. We think it's some sort of weird. Actually, it might be a mollusk. We don't know what it is. It's like there's things in the fossil record that look similar. Like in the Precambrian, there's what's called an opabinia. But then, like, how do you get from the Precambrian to the Carboniferous without anything in between? It's like it's a weird thing. It's like weird. For what it is.
All of a sudden, I don't want the show to ever end. I want to hear more about it.
Well, we can go on a bit longer if y'all want to talk about the Tully monster. What questions do you have, Tony? Let's answer them.
No, actually, I want to listen. I don't have any questions. I'm a listener.
So we don't know much about the Tully monster, but it looks like this weird elephant thing that has eye stalks that come out. It looks like something out of sci-fi, if I'm honest. It looks like some weird alien sci-fi thing.
Yep.
Maybe there should be a sci-fi movie called The Tully Monster.
Oh, and the thing about Illinois fossils is there are places you can actually go to try to collect these yourself. So I believe there's one state park that has a lot of nodules, and if you fill out a permit, you could actually go and try to collect these nodules yourself. And I have to look up which park it was, but you should be able to Google it if they still allow that. And otherwise, I do know of a few people who have property with lots of nodules on them, and you could pay a fee to go and collect these. And you could Google these sites.
Looking for nodules in Illinois around the Tully monster.
Yep.
I wonder if there should be a show called Fossil Locators.
Yeah.
Is there a show called Fossil Locators? Because I would probably watch that just to see them hunt for the Tully monster.
Or anything. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I've thought about doing some sort of YouTube show like that, but then it's like production is a lot of effort, and yeah.
You telling me? I do mostly live streams. If I were to film something outside of this, that would take up so much more time. So I still am trying to develop a show that I want to do with action figures explaining science with a green screen because I have so many action figures. I think it'd be really cool to have like Tony Stark discussing thermodynamics with Batman, and Batman be like, "I got Lucius Fox for this. I don't know what you're talking about." Yeah, and Tony Stark, "You don't understand thermodynamics? Well, let me call Lucius really quick." Yeah, so I think stuff like that would be fun. But yeah, you're right, man. Production takes time.
And you'll never get Warner's and Disney to agree on that one.
Well, if I have, I could misspell the name Batman, call him Ratman, and you know what, Donnie Stark instead of Tony. Donnie Stork, we could call him Donnie Stork and Ratman are discussing.
That guy.
And they'll be like, "This is infringing." I'm like, no, it's action figures. We're educational. It's fair use. I would just throw that out there. Oh, it's fair use, guys. We're educational here. I don't know that they would go that. Somebody's mentioning a show that they should come up called Tully and Sully. Sully could be like the dinosaur fossil locator in search of Tully, his long lost pet. I don't know. I have so many ideas. I need to write these down. Well, I won't keep you guys. Just a bit of admin. Next Sunday, I have Dr. Leah Torres on and Nate Brody to discuss all of the laws associated with reproductive rights. So Nate is a former law professor, and Dr. Leah Torres is an OBGYN. So that'll be a pretty interesting discussion between the two with all of the legislation coming out. And don't forget, guys, we have a T-shirt giveaway. So I'm trying to see, am I going to make it like over a course of 60 days? I'm not certain if I'm going to do a 30-day giveaway or 60, it might be 30 days. If you have the most Streamlab points, you too can get one of these shirts. The Geek Room's doing the same thing. You can't buy this shirt. It's called McBoomer's Rejects. It's a dumb zombie film not coming to a theater near you. Original motion picture soundtrack. So it's a collaborative effort between me, Peter, and the Geek Room. And you two can win. I'm giving away 3 of these shirts. So top viewers with the most Streamlabs points, top 3 will get a free shirt. 30 days. It's our way of poking fun at people who are haters on us. Somebody's a hater on us. I don't do response videos. I just make T-shirts, and then I donate the proceeds to charity if I sell them. So that's what I do. That's my response to haters. So that's how that goes. So, let me check one more time. Any last questions on the chat? Tony mentioned that he lost his ammonite in Katrina, so it's now buried near the top of the soil on the Mississippi coast, where it might be found 10,000 years from now. I'm so sorry, Tony. I hate you lost your ammonite. That sucks. But I'm glad you're okay. That sounds great. I've heard of Nate Brody somewhere. Just Google him. He has interesting information about law. That's what his channel is. Okay, so guys, please be certain to check out Fossil Locator. All of his links are in the YouTube description. Check out Tony Reed's channel. His link is in the YouTube description. Get Fossil Locator's book. Get excited about fossils. They're in 50 states. Whatever state you live in, just find it in the book and then go looking. And let me know if you find a fossil. Hit him up on Twitter. I'm like, I got your book and I found a fossil. Take a picture and share it with us. It'd be great. Okay. Any last thoughts before we go?
No, thank you for having me.
It was awesome having you here. I hope you can come back soon and talk more about, maybe we can get into law of superposition. We didn't even get into that yet. Okay, what about you, Tony? Any last thoughts?
Yeah, the next time we talk, I definitely want to hear about the kind of fossils you're finding in Hawaii.
Yeah, we got that covered.
I bet awesome. You do.
Okay. Well, guys, thank you for being here. And I will see you next Saturday. I'm not certain what the topic is for the Science for the Saturday morning show. If you have an idea for the show, please put it in the comments. Hit me up on Twitter, Scientist Mel. There. Also, you can check out my website, scientistmel.com. I also have a shop there for sciencey clothes. I mostly make T-shirts for myself, and then I buy them and I wear them. But you might like them too. So have a look. All right. So I guess I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much, Yinan. Thank you so much, Tony. And we'll see you next week.